Well, Boris Johnson's Conservatives are saying some very interesting things going into their conference relating to mass migration, which, as we know, was the defining issue of the Brexit referendum. Of course, the immigration issue is actually the number one issue again for Conservative voters and for Leave voters. Of course, there's concern over the surge in illegal migration across from France via small boats. Is Priti Patel finally going to get a handle on a situation that has been allowed to escalate for years? Are we going to see a proper reduction in net migration, which has been deep in the hundreds of thousands per year? Of course, David Cameron himself said Tories were going to make it tens of thousands net per year. Of course, something he couldn't deliver inside the EU with open borders. But what you're now seeing is Boris Johnson's Conservatives talk about wage growth along with controlled migration. Of course, we've seen the negative spin from some about labour shortages. What we've actually seen, contrary to what the experts said would happen after Brexit, is significant wage growth in industries like hospitality, in industries like construction. And Boris Johnson's Conservative Party now talking about investment in the UK domestic workforce. Of course, the most recent example we've seen is with the HGV driver shortage. Of course, a shortage that's been seen across Europe as well. The desperate spin to try and pin it all on Brexit is pretty predictable and pathetic. But look at what the Labour leader's initial response was to that. Keir Starmer calling for 100,000 foreign lorry drivers to come to the UK. And rather than siding with British workers, it seems Labour, as with a lot of business, their immediate knee-jerk reaction to every issue in the labour market is not to look to raise wages and invest in the UK domestic workforce. It's simply to go for cheap foreign labour. Now, this looks to be a major theme for the Conservatives going into their conference. Stephen Swinford, with an interview with Boris Johnson, who has warned businesses they need to pay people more instead of reaching for the lever-marked uncontrolled migration. Boris quoted as saying, what we're saying is that you can't simply reach for the lever in order to avoid making crucial investments. And I think Labour are on completely the wrong side of the debate here. In fact, what the Conservatives are saying here is absolutely correct. With Boris Johnson in his interview with The Times saying the government had offered 5,000 visas to foreign lorry drivers, but Johnson clear there will not be any more. Quote is saying it's a matter for the market. We're not going to intervene and set paying conditions, but the facts speak for themselves. What we're saying is that you can't simply reach for the lever marked uncontrolled immigration in order to avoid making crucial investments in your company. The choice is very clear for the country. Do we go forward with steady improvements in productivity or back to a policy of low wage, low skilled, uncontrolled immigration? I don't think that's the way forward. We need an approach that makes sure we invest in people, invest in skills, invest in capital technology in this country. Now, Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng has been saying much the same, urging employees to resist cheap migrant labour. And in an interview with Conservative Home, again, this is the Business Secretary, Conservative Business Secretary, saying, having rejected the low-wage, high immigration model, we were always going to have to try to transition to something else. What we're seeing now is part of that transition. You're quite right to say that people are resisting that, particularly employers that were benefiting from an influx of labour that could keep wages low. So look, this, I think, is going to be a crucial Conservative message going into their conference. And I think the contrast of having the Conservative Party actually saying to business, hold on a second, we want you to raise wages, we want you to invest in British workers, compared to a Labour Party basically saying, well, whatever the problem is, the answer is more foreign visas. This is going to be a key battleground at the next general election about the way the country operates moving forward. Let me know what you make of the comments from Boris Johnson, from Kwasi Kwarteng. And if you missed the exchange that really sets up Boris Johnson's stall, here he was talking about this in Parliament recently.
Mr. Speaker, I tell you what we're doing to support people on low incomes, not only with the living wage, but 30 hours of free childcare, freezing petrol duty, Mr. Speaker, extending the cost of heating allowance for 780,000 people across this country. But even more important than that, Mr. Speaker, for the low paid, what we're doing is seeing their way, encouraging measures to see their wages rise. We're investing in their skills, Mr. Speaker. We're investing in work coaches, Mr. Speaker. And there's a dividing line now between this government and the opposition. We want a high-wage, high-skill economy with with controlled immigration, Mr. Speaker, and what they want is low wages, low skills and uncontrolled immigration. That's what they stand for.